6 feet down, 10 feet down. Roots work in darkness. They pull potassium and phosphorus from layers other plants never reach. Above ground, someone cuts the leaves. 4 weeks pass. The leaves return, thicker than before. The cycle repeats 4-5 times each season. Upper-end trials recorded 40 to 100 tons of fresh biomass per acre under good management. The numbers come from British trials in the 1960s. For home gardens, orchards, and small holdings, this perennial could change the fertilizer equation. Each cutting delivers leaves with 2 to 3% nitrogen and up to 7% potassium on a dry matter basis. Higher potassium levels than many general-purpose fertilizers. Particularly valuable for fruiting crops that depend on potassium for flower and fruit development. The recurring harvests can supply most or all synthetic potassium needs for tomatoes, peppers, fruit trees. Under good conditions, one planting may eliminate regular fertilizer purchases for these crops. The taproots keep drilling deeper, past clay, past hardpan, into mineral seams that surface crops never touch. Lawrence Hills stood in 1959 among 21 varieties of comfrey. Each plant had a number written on a wooden stake. Strain 14 was different. No seeds fell from its flowers, no spreading through hedgerows, but leaves tested at 7% potassium, higher than any farmyard manure. He recorded everything in notebooks with careful handwriting. Cut weights, nutrient analyses, regrowth cycles, disease resistance. Early members of his research association sent pennies and pounds through the post. Stamps stuck to small envelopes holding root cuttings wrapped in damp newspaper. Strain 14 went to gardeners across Britain, then Europe, then beyond. The notebooks sit in garden organic archives now. The root cuttings grew into plants that still stand today. In Bocking, Essex, the trial plot cost £10 per year to rent. 3/4 of an acre for 21 numbered comfrey varieties planted in rows. Hills dug roots from old orchards where trees had been cut down, from abandoned farms where buildings crumbled. He crossed Russian comfrey, known for vigor, with common comfrey that grew wild in ditches. The goal was control. A plant that stayed where you put it, that multiplied only when you wanted it to. No seeds spread across fields, no invasion of pastures. By the early 1960s, strain 14 stood out as sterile and rust-resistant. Comfrey grows in British gardens today. Some plants are older than 40 years. They stand in the same spots where Hills sent them, still cutting to the ground, still returning. Compost heaps can heat up when comfrey leaves go in, sometimes by 10 or 15 degrees Fahrenheit, according to grower reports. The effect varies with conditions, but often becomes visible on thermometers within hours. Microbes rush the soft tissue, breaking down proteins and carbohydrates faster than most other green matter. Low fiber content, high nitrogen levels. What takes straw or grass clippings weeks to decompose may disappear here in days. The leaves that looked thick and substantial wilt, blacken, and melt into crumbly dark earth. Gardeners call it a compost activator based on this behavior. The temperature rise, when it occurs, suggests accelerated decomposition. Even cold, stalled compost heaps sometimes spring back to life when fresh comfrey is layered in. The heat can draw earthworms, beetles, and soil creatures that finish the work the microbes started. Lab tests measure 2 to 3% nitrogen in fresh comfrey leaves, around 1% phosphorus, up to 7% potassium in some analyses. The figures come from Hill's original trials and later studies that confirmed his measurements. Farmyard manure rarely exceeds 1.5% potassium. Comfrey leaves can deliver 4 times that concentration. The difference matters for fruiting plants. Tomatoes, peppers, and potatoes need heavy potassium for flower development and fruit set. Trace minerals appear in smaller amounts: calcium, magnesium, iron, silicon, boron. Each leaf concentrates what the deep taproot draws up from subsoil layers. The nutrients wait in every broad, bristly leaf. Someone just needs to cut them. The plant stores everything above ground in tissues ready for harvest. Blue crystals in bright bags filled garden center shelves by the 1960s. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, blended in exact ratios and labeled with bold numbers. 5 minutes of spreading instead of 1 hour of cutting and carrying. The advertising emphasized convenience and certainty. Agricultural extension offices promoted synthetic NPK products as labor-saving solutions. Synthetic fertilizer eliminated the seasonal work of managing living plants, with their cutting cycles and decomposition timing. The Haber-Bosch process turns air into ammonia on industrial scales. Massive energy costs, but fertilizer became available by the ton. Garden catalogs shifted toward packaged inputs as consumer preferences moved toward convenience products. Comfrey plantings became less common in new gardens. The plants remained in established locations, but retail focus moved to shelf-stable products with predictable application rates. July 2001. The FDA issued warnings about comfrey supplements. Purolizidine alkaloids in teas, capsules, and medicinal preparations were linked to serious liver damage. The advisory targeted products for internal consumption, not garden plants used for soil fertility. But public understanding often conflated medicinal and horticultural uses. The word toxic appeared in consumer alerts and safety bulletins. Garden centers responded to customer inquiries about plant safety and potential liability concerns by removing comfrey from their inventory. Nursery catalogs dropped listings as retailers focused on products without associated health warnings. No law banned comfrey cultivation, and regulatory documents never addressed horticultural use. The reputation impact came from medicinal toxicity concerns, not restrictions on garden applications. The alkaloids concentrate heaviest in root tissue, hundreds to several thousand micrograms per gram of dry weight in laboratory tests. Leaves contain much less, ranging from 4 to 2,200 micrograms per gram, depending on the sample. Young leaves test lower than old leaves. Soil microbes break these organic compounds down over time through normal decomposition processes. No published studies link comfrey mulch to toxin accumulation in food crops. The FDA warning addressed ingestion, not soil application. Regulatory documents never mentioned restrictions on horticultural use. Yet, garden center shelves stayed empty. The fear of association with toxicity kept the plants out of mainstream retail, relegated to specialist suppliers and informal root-sharing networks. Cut and drop requires no equipment beyond hand tools. The thick leaves wilt within hours after cutting, turn black by the next day, and can break down rapidly in soil under favorable conditions. Potassium and nitrogen flow directly to nearby root zones. Tomato plants, pepper bushes, berry canes. No digging needed, no mixing with other materials, no waiting for lengthy decomposition cycles. For liquid feed, chopped leaves ferment in water buckets for 1 to 2 weeks. The resulting brew smells foul, but tests can show roughly 2:1:3 NPK ratios in some preparations. Higher potassium levels than many commercial tomato fertilizers. Home brewed from plants that regrow themselves. Diluted and applied, the feed costs nothing beyond the initial planting and the labor of harvesting leaves that would regenerate anyway. Comfrey can be long-lived, with some plantings producing biomass for many years. No replanting schedules, no annual fertilizer inputs, no tillage to disturb soil structure under good management. The deep root system stores energy through winter, sends up new growth each spring in suitable conditions. Permaculture designers calculate potential economics. An established patch may reduce synthetic fertilizer purchases over time. The cost is planting once. Root cuttings establish easily in most temperate soils where conditions suit them. Some plants stand in gardens today where they were planted decades ago. They wait for the next cutting cycle, the next harvest. Roots keep working several feet down, pulling nutrients from subsoil layers, whether someone harvests the leaves above ground or lets them grow. The potential for renewable fertility sits there, ready when needed.